What's up, my Omi homies and fellow NFT collectors? Welcome back to the Vault. As OpenSea gets flooded with hundreds and hundreds of new profile picture projects, NFT collectors out there are starting to look for NFTs with utility, and in steps digital comics. People are starting to realize that comics have utility, they're readable, they're historic, they have historic value, and they're starting to collect them, and the prices are going up. In a recent article by LitHub, they explained that Marvel comic NFTs are digital collectibles, and as discussed every time NFTs are mentioned, buying an NFT gives you proof of ownership of the object that the NFT represents. But these comic NFTs are also working digital copies of the book. All the Marvel comic NFTs are readable on VeVe, the digital collectible app. It continues to say, if this feels a little weird to you, that's understandable. Much of the excitement of collecting classic Marvel comics is about owning the physical versions, having the original copies of comics of varying ages. This NFT release intuitively feels a bit odd because it's coupling the excitement of the classic Marvel releases with a conspicuously new technology that can't be, say, displayed with other memorabilia on a shelf. I guess they haven't seen a VeVe Vault. They're not really the classic comics, they're ebooks. Marvel just minted them this month, so what's the point? And this is the important part here, so maybe it's more helpful to understand what Marvel is doing is creating a new collectible rather than releasing an old collectible in a new format. Marvel, of all corporations, knows how to stretch their IP. The comic NFTs are limited edition, assigned different levels of rarity by Marvel, as we know, so fans seeking rare Marvel items have incentive to collect, and regardless of intuitiveness, the Marvel NFTs are selling like hotcakes. It only took 24 hours for all 65,000 NFTs in the first drop to sell out. 24 hours. I'm sure they sold out a lot faster than that if I remember correctly. So as you can see here, they're explaining why these comic NFTs have more value because of their historical significance and their utility. With that being said, VeVe is not the only NFT platform that's currently putting out digital comics from big name brands and famous artists. Terra Virtua was the first platform that I know of to release a digital comic as an NFT, and that's the Bloodlines graphic novel by the famous artist Nick Percival, who's known for his work with Magic the Gathering, Marvel, and Judge Dredd. And last week, Terra Virtua released their NFTs based on the very popular comic book series The Boys, which is now one of the most popular TV series on Amazon TV. So I want to take a look at the comic books on VeVe and the digital comic books on Terra Virtua and compare them to each other to see what their weaknesses and strengths are, so we can know which ones we might want to purchase to invest in and hold for long term. The first thing I want to look at is brand name, and of course VeVe is coming with Marvel Comics, and that's pretty hard to beat. But if you take a closer look into The Boys, you can see that it's actually the first published DC Comics comic book that was made into an NFT. The Boys was originally published by DC Comics and Wildstorm Productions, and Wildstorm Productions was founded by Jim Lee, who is of course very famous in the comic book world and the artist who created the first appearance Joker on the VeVe app. And also, of course, it's important to note that The Boys is one of the most popular shows on Amazon TV right now. It just got picked up for a third season, and they're actually going to be creating a spin-off show of The Boys. It says here that the spin-off that they're working on is set at an America's only college exclusively for young adult superheroes and run by Vault International. The Untitled Boys spin-off is described as an irreverent R-rated series that explores the lives of hormonal competitive supes as they put their physical, sexual, and moral boundaries to the test, competing for the best contracts in the best cities. Part college show, part Hunger Games, with all the heart, satire, and raunch of The Boys. So that's going to be interesting as well, and when that comes out, that's going to make The Boys even more popular going forward. So when it comes to brand, going forward, knowing that purists are going to say that The Boys is the first comic book published by DC Comics to become an NFT, I think they're pretty much a tie. So next, let's take a look at the features that each platform's comic books provide you. If you take a look at VeVe, of course it's readable, but what's really nice is that you can look at it in augmented reality. This gives the owner a new way to read their NFT and also a new way to view it, and in the future you'll also be able to put these comic books in your vault on VeVe, which will be another feature. As for Terra Virtua Comics, they have a cool feature where you can remove the text bubbles from the comic and view it that way. And also they have animated covers. The Bloodlines NFT has several different animated covers that you can purchase, and their new line of Dynamite comics that have just came out each have a special rarity that includes an animated cover. I really like the animated covers a lot, but I gotta give VeVe the leg up here with the augmented reality. Hopefully that's something that'll be available on both platforms in the future, and I think it adds a lot to those NFTs. Next, we'll look at value, or the price of the NFTs, and if you take a look at the comic books on Terra Virtua, you can see that they have different rarities with different prices, and maybe even smaller edition sizes than VeVe. However, with VeVe, you do have the $7 blind boxes with the opportunity to get secret rares and ultra rares, and all of the common comics right now are selling for even more than the original price, so you got to give the value and the price to VeVe right now. It's pretty obvious, but going forward, these Terra Virtua comic book NFTs could become more popular, especially since you're able to sell them on OpenSea. The last thing I want to look at is the storyline of the comic books that are being sold on each platform. On VeVe, you got the Marvel comics. A lot of them are from the 1960s, one of them's from the 1930s. And it is nice that VeVe and Marvel decided to also release some more modern comics so that you don't just have 1960s storylines and plots to read. So you do have some more 90s and 2000s plots. But if you look at the comic books that are being put out on Terra Virtua right now, I gotta give them the edge on storyline. A lot of these are adult-based comics. They have deeper stories that are a little bit longer, and most of them consist of the entire series. If you're reading Avengers number 8, for example, you're kind of starting in on the 8th comic of that set. You didn't read 1 through 7, so it's a little harder to follow the plot. Now, of course, these storylines on Terra Virtua, especially the boys, for example, it's not everybody's cup of tea. When I was reading through it earlier, I actually had to turn it off and read it later because my kid was in the background and some of the images were very graphic. But the storylines are deep, the art is amazing, and I think that's going to add value to them in the future. So NFTs with utility are the future, and readable NFTs are the first NFTs with utility. With that in mind, it's important for me to point out that VeVe's newest announcement about the release of one of the best-selling books ever published, The Little Prince, as an NFT is not only historical, but it's also monumental. This is an NFT that could reach Da Vinci Pride proportions, and it's one that you definitely want to go hard for, and you don't want to miss out on. Alright everybody, thanks for watching. I missed the last comic drop. I wasn't able to live stream because my computer was down, but it's back up and working again, so I plan to live stream comic drops in the future. And don't forget that the Tiger Woods NFT is dropping on autograph.io today. It's $12 to get this, and you don't want to miss that one for sure. We'll see y'all next time. Bye-bye.